Hello again. I'm back. Hi, George. All right, taking off my sweater. We're getting serious. Okay, so today, what I realized is that we've done the fancy satin stitch with the 3/4 trick, but we didn't actually do regular satin stitch. So we're going to do that today. What's the color number, Tori? I haven't told you yet. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do this guy here. And just like the regular satin stitch that we did on the free Stitchalong, we've got the regular satin stitch here. Now, what I mean by regular satin stitch is that all of the stitches are going to be straight lines and parallel like this. So we're not going to have any like this, none like this, none like that. They're all going to be straight in a line. So what I like to do for these is just the same as the regular, not regular, because it's not the regular, the 3/4 flowers that we did earlier. We're going to do the grid lines again. So this is where you can really work on getting your satin stitch nice and straight, and work on those straight lines that I know you guys all love to practice. I'll just do them all now, and then I don't have to do them later. My screen just flashed. I got a little bit concerned. I was like, oh no, be nice to me. I'm getting the ruler out. They're just guidelines. I like to do just 3 for each one because that works for me. But if you need to do more, then do more, you know? No one's judging you for your lines. So as always, I'm using anchor thread, and the color is 261. So it's a little bit greener, if that makes any sense, than the ones that I was using before. So if you have a look at that, it's a bit more green. This one's maybe a bit more blue, if you know what I mean. And I think I'm probably going to use, I could probably get away with 6, you know what I mean? But what I should do is do like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can see the difference. Do you know what I mean? That would be really nice, because then you can see the difference in satin stitch with different. I'm going to do that. So you don't do this. You can use 6 strands or 4 strands or 3 strands, however much you feel like. But what I'm going to do is show you all the different satin stitch thread. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I've got 5 strands here. I'm going to do just these 2 leaves in 5 strands, and then we'll do 4, 3, 2, and 1. And you can see all the different satin stitches and how they look with different strands of thread. I was going to say lengths of thread, but that's not it. That's not the one. And you'll be happy to know I've already moved my table down because I could see that the sun was coming out. So you're welcome. You don't have to experience an earthquake today. Okay. And believe it or not, the light is on, so I don't know why it's a bit like dark and gloomy, but I also really loved the one you used different colors for each row. That looked so nice. Yes. That's not it. This one. She's talking about this one. So dark, a little bit lighter, and the lightest. That's a good way to do it too. And I really like using that way on these kinds of big plants like that, because it's a very like a gradual way, you know what I mean? To like add a little bit of oomph, but not like bam. It's just a little bit. You have a good memory. All right, here we go. Let's put this in the middle. Hi, Jamie. Jamie T. Okay, so this one is 5 strands. And what we're aiming for here is just having nice straight lines. You can see there's a gap in my hoop here. Nice straight lines, and we want them to lay right next to each other. So if you have to lay your thread down like this and then stick your needle in, you can do that. But what we don't want to see is anything like this. We're not crisscrossing. You don't want to leave space in between here like that. You just want to put them right next to each other, which is sometimes harder than you think it is, you know? You think, oh yeah, that'll be easy. And then you go to do it and you're like, wow, not how I expected it to go. So that's why I think the guidelines can really help you to make them nice and straight. Now, if you want to use the thread saver method like I showed you before, of course you can. I'll just use this way until I tend to use a mix of both. And you can really tell just by watching that sometimes I'll go all up on this side, all down on this side, and sometimes I'll switch it up and move it depending on where I need to put my needle down or up next. Now, there's other ways you can do satin stitch with these leaves. You don't have to go right down the middle. If you really want to jazz it up a bit, you could do one side, one color, and one side, another color. So you could have 2 colors. You could do, I'm just giving you options, okay? I'm not saying you have to do it this way. You could do a line down the middle, and instead of doing satin stitch from tip to tip, you can do it sideways or even at an angle. So you could have like this, almost like a fishbone, but not a fishbone. Yeah, you could do right down the middle, but have them go sideways like this. So with satin stitch, your stitch direction is important because it can really influence how your actual leaf is going to look. So all these 4 will have a different kind of look to them. Sometimes I'll do half the leaf and stitch it like this, and the other half just outline it like with a back stitch. Yeah? So all different ways, but all using the same stitch, which is satin stitch. So just by changing the direction or just mixing it up a little bit, you can really change the look of your leaf. And we'll go back and do the middle later. So I'm just doing the leaves now. And again, I'm going to show you all the leaves with different strands. This one's going to be 5, the next 2, 4, the next 2, 3, the next 2, 2, and the last one, 1. I am going to keep the same pattern here though. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do a different one each time. Now those 2 stitches were way too far apart. So what you can do is either do like I did and kind of squish one over, or you can just go back and put another stitch in there. Now we're not outlining these, so make sure that you're following the shape of the leaf. If you need to go back and like make your outline a little bit nicer, or more the shape that you want it to be, then do that before you start stitching, because after you're done here, really the only option that you have is to unpick it or to put an outline in if you really have like a crazy kind of shape, Okay, so there's 5 strands. I'm gonna pull one of these babies out. And then continue on with 4. Here we go. Grab one. I did miss a comment, and it was that variegated thread would also look really great. And yes, I do that a lot, but I didn't actually order any variegated thread from Anchor this time. I just got regular colors. I kind of forgot about it, if I'm honest. But I do have the plants kit that I showed you yesterday, and we do variegated thread in this kind of leaf style. So all variegated thread, and what it is it just changes colors as you use it. So all one thread skein, but you get this light color, medium, dark, back to light, you know what I mean? So the thread changes on its own as you're using it, which is really nice. You can get a lot of nice colors with that. Okay, so now I'm doing 4 strands. Like I said before, you do not have to do this. I need to take this out and wrap it because you can tell. See? 2 loose. Now I'm going to hide my knot on this end. And then poke all my stitches down in the other end. Now this is 4 strands, so I might need more stitches to fill this in. But you'll notice that the less strands I use, the more stitches I use, but the smoother the leaf is going to look. So when I get down to 1, I'll have to change my needle because 1 strand is too thin for the thickness of my needle shaft. Lindo, oh Sue, thank you. She says it's beautiful. I think she's saying my work is beautiful. I think. Hey, hey. Okay, let's do this side then. My thumb is starting to hurt from holding this in. Hi, hi. Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna win this thread chicken? Who even knows? Please, please, please. You can tell when I'm running out of thread because I go straight to the thread saver mode. Like please, please, please just let me. Oh. Oops. One more. Do you ever get a sore hand near your pointer finger knuckle? Like here? Here? Not really. No. Okay, there's 4 strands. I made it. I did it. Do you like push it in with your, do you like push it in there on the side, the needle, when you're stitching? Okay, what are we on? 3 strands now, yeah? No. Everything's falling apart. Tori 1, thread 0. Yes, keeping score. The minute I say I'm winning, though, this is gonna backfire, isn't it? Because the minute I say I'm winning, then I like poke my hand or like stitch myself or like get my thread caught somewhere, have like a really, really, really big knot that I can't get out. Happens every time. Yesterday I was on the sofa stitching the camera strap thing. I don't want to jinx it. And oh my gosh, I was like not paying attention at all. I was watching TV at the same time and just like shoved the needle so far in my finger. I was like, why did you do that? Why would you do that? Why? I was so mad at myself. Okay, here we go. We have 3 strands now. Halfway done. Now for this one, I'm going to want to go up on this side and go down so I can poke it in under this thing. What we don't want to do is have it go next to it like that, and then you see a white line or whatever fabric color you have. Three strands isn't so bad. It's going to be the 1 strand. That's going to be like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're going to be like, this video is very long, Tori. Now, I just want to say again, you do not have to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you can choose which one you like the best and do that for all of them. Or you can do one of the ways that I showed before with the guidelines in the purple. Guidelines in the purple. Meaning you can change your stitch direction and it will change the look of your leaves. There we are. Come on, you can do it. forget what stitch long it was, but one of the times I was like showing the stitches, but I wasn't doing like all of everything because of time. I wanted to make sure that, you know, like you kind of got the idea, and then, you know, you weren't like watching me for an hour. And someone was copying on their hoop exactly how much, like how far I got. And she was like, "Are we gonna ever finish any of these?" And I was like, "Yeah, you should be finishing them as you go." And it was so cute because she was only going as far as I was going, and I was only stopping so that the video would be shorter, so that you didn't have to like watch me doing the same thing for like, you know, 2 hours or whatever. And she's like, are we gonna have like a, you know, a day where we finish it? Because you leave a lot of things undone. I'm like, yeah, you should be finishing them. It was so cute. Yeah, I do like the look of 3. The 3 strands does look really nice, but it depends on how you want it to look. If you want it to be nice and smooth, then use less strands. If you want it to have a little bit of texture and a little bit, I say chunky, but it's not chunky. It's just thicker lines, you know? Looks like I need to put another stitch in here because I can see. And I've got a little thing poking out. Okay, so this is 3 strands. Here comes the sun again. Here comes the sun. Kind of made this one a weird shape, didn't I? Goodness, it's like blinding out there, especially because of the snow, so it like reflects off everything. Let's do one more. And then maybe one more on the edge. What do we think there? Okay, let's get this out. Okay. 2 strands. Are you still with me? Gotta pull one out. And I'm gonna get the smaller needle as well because 2 strands, the thickness of 2 strands is too thin for the thickness of this needle. Yeah, so because this has a thinner line and is smaller, the hole that this is gonna make is gonna be too big for the two strands. So I'm just gonna get a smaller one. Jamie T says, it's been super sunny here the last 2 days, but today is gray and it just started snowing again. I think that's just passed over me and gone to you because it was really, really gray a little bit ago. And to be honest, I was like, oh, good, because that's really great for the videos. When it's gray like that and not really sunny. Oh, how much snow have you guys got? It's just cold down here in Bristol. Not very much, just like a dusting. It's like white everywhere. You can see it in my stories later. I didn't see what stitch to do for the stem of the leaf yet, because we're just doing the satin stitch here. So if you want to do your own, like if you want to do a stem stitch like we did before, or if you want to, you could do 5 strands, then 4, 3, 2 if you want to make it like thicker and then thinner at the top. But I haven't really decided yet. So you didn't miss it. Okay, this is much thinner. 2 strands. We've got about 4 inches. Goodness. Yeah, I uploaded a video this morning of just like the front of our neighborhood, like out the top window. Two is so thin. But I love that you can really see like how much thicker the bottom looks than the top. I think I can do one more little one here. Let's do the other side. So repetitive, isn't it? There we go, smoother yet. Why do they put the alarm clock in here in the middle of this one? This is the same lo-fi music that I listened to yesterday. And I completely forgot they put a alarm clock right in the middle. Gives you anxiety, doesn't it? Like, oh my gosh, I'm late for something. I do think when you have less strands, it's a little bit more forgiving, because if you do mess up a little bit or you don't make them 100% parallel, or if you need to add one in, there's only 2 strands, so you can really do more stitches before it really starts to look like, oh, you messed up a little bit. You know? Does that make sense? So if you do have to add a couple stitches in here or there, it's really not that big of a deal. Where if you have 5 strands or 6 strands, you really only get like 7 stitches and then you're done. And this lays a lot flatter onto your fabric. All right, Hannah says, I really love that although you're teaching similar stitches every stitch along, it's totally different every time, showing us something new all the time. I really do try to, because otherwise you'd never come back. You'd be like, well, I learned this stitch. I'm done. Thanks, Tori. But yeah, and it's about using the stitches in different ways, because every embroidery artist knows the same stitches. If you look, all of our stitches are the same, you know, but they're all different too, because we use them in different ways. So, I mean, although some people say, well, the stitch is just the stitch or whatever, the way that you use it and the way you draw your things and the way that you, like everything, there's so much that you can change to make it your own, which is why it really grinds my gears, you know, or however you want to say it, when people copy, because there's so many ways that you could make it different. There's so many ways you can make it your own, whether it's like people who take whole designs, or they just learn how to draw the flowers from the Stitchalong, and they take those same exact flowers that I've drawn and then they use them in their own work. Like, I have people messaging me all the time saying, I think this person is copying you, or I think this work looked like yours. Like, maybe she's selling your hoops, or maybe they're, you know what I mean? And that's where it gets a little bit like, ooh. Like, even instruction. Like, I know some people have taken what I've taught them and then now are like teaching other people, which is fantastic, but like, put your own spin on it, you know? Don't just like control paste, copy paste. Control paste. Tori. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit more, because it's just one strand. And I've changed my needle again. So really quickly, I've got one. This one I use for 2 or 3, and it's just a little bit thicker. I know this is a very zoomed in picture of my hand, but sorry. Someone can like read my lifeline or something, right? And then this is like 3 to 6. So you can see how thick this one is, and then a little bit thinner, and then a little bit thinner. And it does make all the difference. It really does. So the hole that the needle is putting in your fabric should match the thread thickness, and how many strands you use. Now, if you only have one needle, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But if you do have problems, then that would be like the first thing that I would change or try and have a think about, you know? This is very, very long. Let me just snip this a little bit. Goodness. I was like making my arm do like stretches. So here we are, one strand. Now for the middle, like I said earlier, you could do 2 strands, 3, 4, 5, right down the middle, and just one big long straight stitch or back stitch. You could do a stem stitch if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. You can make it thick the whole way, meaning that you could do 5 strands the whole way down. Really sorry, could you repeat how many threads to start with? Okay, so for this one, I'm just showing you all the different strands. You need to choose which one that you want to do yourself. So I've shown you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One less strand every 2 leaves. But do not do it like this. You do not need to do this unless you actually want to see like yourself stitch them like this. Does that make sense? You need to choose the one that you like the look of the best based on this example, and then do that on your pattern. So I'm showing you 5 strands and how thick it can be, all the way down to one strand and how thin and delicate it is. You do not have to do this. I hope that makes sense. Because I would really hate for someone to do this and then be like, oh, she made us do all of this work. Because it is a lot of work. But I'm showing you on mine so that you can make the decision on how it looks yourself. Does that make sense? Do you get me? So here at the very tip is just one strand. Now, one strand seems like, wow, I'm not ever going to use that. But it's really great for like thread painting, which is like actually blending all of your colors together so they look real and it looks like you have a realistic whatever. Yeah, it's like a realistic flower. It has lots of different shades and tones and variants of the same color. So what you would do is get like this color and then like one shade darker, one shade darker, one shade darker, one shade darker, and then use one strand to blend them all together. Some people really hate it and some people really love it. So it just depends on what you like doing. You can totally see that I've missed one here because I can see the fabric through right in the middle. There we go. But yeah, so 2 strands and 1 strand, they're very forgiving, like I said, because if you need to go back and add some filler stitches in, meaning that you've missed out for some reason, like you didn't do the exact right next to each other, or maybe, what is that? Yeah, or maybe you found that like you didn't do the outline very well, like you didn't follow the outline, then you can always go back and add some more stitches in there and it won't look too bulky. Because like I still have one missing here somewhere because I can see through right in the middle. I think that's pretty good. I think that's all right. Oh, I know what it was. I've doubled my thread, yeah, for the tail, and I've just stitched the tail in. Ah, why have I done that? I said, what is that? Oh my gosh. Well, it's just gonna have to stay there because I can't get it out. Guys, no one's perfect, okay? All right, so this is what we've got so far. Happens to me all the time. And I think I'm going to take the 3 strands and do just a really nice I kind of want to do a stem stitch down the middle. What do you think about that? But like a long one to make it like a little less twisty. Now again, you could do just a regular, I think that my last couple stitch-alongs, it would be that's totally fine. It's totally fine. That was my thing. But now I think it's now again. Now again. Gonna do a long, long stem stitch. 3 strands. I'll put, I didn't really pull the table over far enough, did I? Because you can still see the sun peeking through behind. Okay, so I've got my long stem stitch. And this is what we've got. So we'll zoom out. Oh, it looks quite pretty. Artistic looking. All right, so we've got 1 strand, 2 strands, 3 strands, 4 strands, and 5 strands. For the thicker strands, if you see it's getting a bit like bulky, meaning that they're not laying in a nice way, like particularly like this one, you can take your needle and make little lines like this in it, and it will blend them together a little bit more. And really all it's doing is just untwisting the twists, you know? You can take your pointy end too if you want. Just be careful. And you can run it through and it will make it a little bit more blended. It's almost like you're brushing it, but not. So if you've got any loose ones, you can like tame them back into place. Or you can take your needle on the back and give them a little tug and they will tighten up, you know? So there we go. That's what we have for today. Today's video was a little bit longer. Sorry about that, but I feel like we learned a lot. So sorry, not sorry. Because we're in the game of learning, aren't we? We're learning. So I hope that you enjoyed. I can't wait to see how many strands that you choose, because again, you do not have to do this. Yeah, pick your own strands and see what you like. And you can kind of see this way as well. It gets flatter and flatter and flatter. So enjoy your Wednesday. I hope you have a lovely day. Make sure that you tag me in your posts or stories so I can reshare them, share them, and use the hashtag the Barmy Fox SAL. So yeah, happy Wednesday, and I'll talk with you tomorrow. Bye.